what's up you guys, this is Rob from Gay Guy Plays, and today on the Daily Grind, we're going to be chatting about a couple things that were too good to be true. Of course, this is spawned off of the recent PSA that DE had put into the forums concerning upcoming changes to Gara's mass Vitrify. Now, for those of you guys who have absolutely no clue what's going on, I'm going to go ahead and read that out to you, and for those of you who have actually read it, I highly suggest, and this is what I always tell everybody, is put your feedback in the forums. Don't put it in the comments of this video because it really doesn't help here. And to be honest, if I see something that's more than a paragraph, I ain't gonna read it. Like, legitimately, if you can't make your point to me in 3 sentences or less, I just am not all that concerned. You gotta be concise, y'all. I don't need a novel about your feelings. But let me go ahead and jump straight into this. So DE Aiden had posted, "Hey Tenno, just wanted to drop in here and give a little update on some upcoming changes to Gara's 4th ability, Mass Vitrify. Coming in the next update, this ability will no longer be invulnerable to damage. It will eventually break apart in sections when enough damage has been dealt to that specific section of the glass wall. The wall's health is determined by both your ability, power strength, and armor mods, just like Frost Snow Globe. This will give your enemies a few extra options for dealing with Mass Vitrify, leading to some more dynamic encounters when using the wall defensively. Please use this thread to discuss any questions or feedback." So that's kind of like what's going on. Basically, it's getting the Frost Snow Globe treatment, which I'm gonna be honest was a realistic move for Mass Vitrify. Now, Mass Vitrify had something that I would like to call the too good to be true effect. For anybody who's been playing the game long enough, you see certain things in the game and you're like, we'll see how long that lasts. One of the big ones that came up back in the day was, of course, the cost assist with that built-in slash proc onto its kind of like charge attack. You know, you do the charge attack and it lays out the slab that puts enemies into stealth finisher modes and applies slash procs at the same time. It's kind of like one of those things where you're like, that seems really powerful. That seems almost too powerful. Another one that we saw previous to this was, of course, and this is for like way back in the day veterans, which is Trinity's blessing granting zone-wide invulnerability. I'm not like, we gotta take it all the way back to like Trinity like 1.0. Zone-wide invulnerability. Like, legit, it doesn't even matter. There was no affinity radius that we were talking about, nothing along those lines. It was just like, zone-wide, everything's invincible. It was a massive game changer way back in the day. I do want to make a quick point. Somebody had recently made a comment on the video. So what is a big deal about being a veteran? Being a veteran means that we've seen all of these different changes. We've gotten acclimated to the way that DE develops. And to be completely honest with you, when I saw these changes to Mass Vitrify, I was like, not surprised. But a part of me almost wants to say it's kind of like DE usually moves a little bit slower. And right now, it's strange. Because the thing that I will always fault DE for is sometimes they take too long to get to these changes. Like one of the big changes that you guys know is too good to be true is that the fact that Drifting Contact, I believe, currently still works on exalted weapons. That's not supposed to be the case. They've come out and said that Drifting Contact is not supposed to work on exalted weapons. I don't believe they've changed it yet. DE tends to kind of like have these things going on in the background. They know that they need to change it. Now, of course, Gara was released with Plains of Eidolon. So, you know, she was out. She's been out for a little bit now. I want to say, has it been like maybe a month and a half, maybe 2 months? It's been a bit since Plains of Eidolon came out. And to be honest, in the grand scheme of things, this is actually a pretty quick change in their books. And a part of me can't really fault up. There's a little bit of fault on that part, but one of the things that I do want to mention is that originally when Mass Vitrify was put out, it was just a ring. It had no height to it. It just had like this specific level height, and that's pretty much it. Of course, after Mass Vitrify was released and we started finding some issues in the planes where literally the bottom of Mass Vitrify would not cover up certain points. So of course DE went through and made the change so that, you know, when you use Mass Vitrify, it would extend downwards as well. So it would cover up bottom areas. However, one side effect of that is, of course, you can bullet jump with Mass Vitrify, cast it in the middle of air, and make a massive vertical column that goes all the way down and prevents any interaction from enemies. So, previous to this, in Mass Vitrify's original form, basically what happened, and this is the kind of way that I like rationalized it was Mass Vitrify is a wall, but enemies could get above it, and while it wasn't destructible, you know, it just prevented certain enemies from getting in, which would mitigate the amount of damage an enemy could do to defense pods or like defensible areas, right? But because of the fact that they added in the whole it extends downwards part, people were able to use it to create these massive pillars of just non-interactivity. You know, enemies just couldn't come through. Kuva can't go through. Nothing can come through this big old barrier. And literally, there was no vertical challenge from there because, you know, with Frost Snow Globe, it creates a globe, so you've got protection from above and all of the sides. However, of course, you can't. It doesn't physically keep enemies away, which is something that Mass Vitrify does do. So it's kind of like it had all of these trade-offs at the very beginning. I'm like, well, okay, I mean, it's fine because enemies can still attack from above. But now, of course, we've been able to play around with it, and we've been able to create these big structures that enemies just can't get through. Now, one of the things that I've been doing, and believe you me, I've already been experimenting with some builds. We've already started talking about it in the Discord. I'm like, all right, what can we play around with? And I don't really want to pass any judgment on the actual implementation of it because it hasn't been implemented yet, right? We haven't seen the numbers off of exactly how strong Mass Vitrify is, how much, you know, armor is going to be built in or whatever, how much armor is going to affect it, yada yada yada, and so on and so forth. We haven't seen those numbers, and we also haven't seen how big the panels are, because legitimately, maybe a panel is not that massive. Is it 4 panels? Is it 6 panels? Is it 12 panels? Like, exactly what do you mean by panels? And like, when we talk about the size, does when it grows out to a certain size, wow, grammar is terrible, do the number of panels increase depending on the radius or the diameter of the actual Mass Vitrify itself? We haven't seen any of that information, so part of me is like, I'm gonna hold my horses before I actually pass any judgment on it, because it's not been implemented in game, and I think it's a little bit foolish. And that's kind of like one of my annoyances with the community. Like, it has yet to be implemented, yet it's the worst thing ever. And I'm like, well, technically it's not the worst thing ever because we haven't actually seen it in game. And at the same time, we have to kind of keep in mind that there has been a lot of, how do we put this? There's always something that DE does is they want to make sure that there is some sort of interactivity with enemies, right? Like when we have what is it called? Frickin' the changes to mag, right? She used to have polarized, you hit one button, everything in the void died because of the high shield values of some Corpus units, right? But that was just way too easy. That was just like a single button click and the enemies couldn't do anything about it, which is kind of very similar to the way that Gara's works, is she lays down her Mass Vitrify, enemies can't do nothing about it. It's like, what is happening here? But in like Mag's case, you know, of course it was an offensive ability, but what DE ended up doing was they ended up creating Magnetize instead, where it was interaction with the enemies. You can still get an insane amount of damage out of it, right? The only thing about it is you had to have enemy interaction, and that's one of the things that DE always wants to push, is that the enemies aren't completely helpless against you. I mean, the same thing that you saw when it came to like Valkyr's Hysteria. Man, Valkyr's Hysteria is one of those, I'm like, I'm waiting for the pin to drop. Like, y'all gave this combos, and now it's affected by the melee weapon stats. They started adding more and more. Actually, if you see my Valkyr, my original Valkyr, she had a ton of Forma in her because they kept changing Hysteria over and over and over again. I'm like, God damn it, how is this gonna work? And then finally they changed it to its current standpoint now, where it's kind of like the longer you're in it, the higher the energy drain is gonna be for it. So it's kind of like they still want you to interact with the enemies, they don't want you to be just completely invulnerable. Same thing that goes with Limbo and his Rift. The reason why it's so finicky is because legitimately when he's in his Rift, he's invulnerable. Enemies can't fuck around with him. So it's kind of like Limbo can pick and choose what enemies he interacts with. And of course that, you know, can lead into like group discord where they're just like, I don't like this, this is like irritating. You know, there's got to be trade-offs, and that's exactly what I was seeing with Gara's Mass Vitrify. Like, I spotted it and I was like, so you telling me we just gonna push all these enemies out and we could just shoot at them from the other side of the glass? and they can't shoot you back. Like, literally, I could just stand back 5 feet, and I could just snipe them if I felt like it. And the thing is, it was definitely a nice feature. Like, it was a nice, I feel safe in this, you know, in this confinement. It's so pretty and it's so glassy. But, you know, we saw it. I saw it coming. I was like, at some point they're gonna have to do this because they've made Frost completely obsolete, especially with the whole height thing, being able to create such a high column. Like, enemies, no matter what angle they approach, are not gonna be able to hit it. So this is kind of like one of those things that I chalk up to, it was too good to be true. I don't know how you guys feel about it, because and I'm sure that you guys have run into it too, because I know that I've got a good audience of people that have been here for a while, and they're like, yeah, I remember when X, Y, and Z came out, I was like, man, too good to be true. So what I would love for you guys in the comments below is leave me anything down there that you spotted that was just way too good to be true and then got a nerf. Tom Core, you know what I have a whole shirt dedicated to that. Check out, by the way, check out my merch store too if you want to see that. There's a Tom Core one. There's a lot of things that you just kind of like sit there and you're like, okay, that it was nice while it lasted. I enjoyed that, but too good to be true. So go ahead and leave all of those in the comments below. Again, if you want to leave your feedback specifically to the changes to Master Vitrify, please go ahead and post that into the forums. I'll leave the link in the description as well, because I want to make sure that you guys, you know, if you guys have issues with it, if you guys have legitimate feelings or legitimate things that you would rather have them change on it, I'm a busy man. I make videos like 5 to 7 days a week, and I stream like 5 to 7 days a week too. Unless it's something that I'm like, oh my god, it's like Gara's like the audio off of her shit. God, audio team did great with that. Unless it's just like mind-blowing, I'm not gonna take it back to them. If it's something that I've heard about 50 other times and I just don't think is a strong enough argument, I'm just gonna be like, and if it's like 2 paragraphs worth of like not that great an argument, I'm like, regardless, leave that in the comments below. Let me know how you guys feel about the upcoming changes in a short, concise message, and then leave your proper feedback in the forums. And also, let me know what you have seen that is too good to be true. Let me know if there's something that you see that is too good to be true now that might be getting the axe in the future too. Alright, toss all of that in the comments below, and as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and let's keep the bitching down to a minimum, and touch your body. Alright? Touch your body first before you bitch. That way you can get out all the bad feelings, all the negativity just ejaculates. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!